So as a pro photographer and a filmmaker, I always get asked, how did you get into photography and filmmaking? And sometimes I just want to answer with a simple, it's a camera. It's a short answer and quite the truth too, actually. But today, let's go in detail over my process of becoming a pro photographer and a filmmaker. Firstly, I want to describe my definition of being a pro photographer and a filmmaker. In my opinion, when someone can charge for taking photos and filming something, whether it be grad photos, weddings, or even a commercial client, if you're getting paid, you are a pro. Now, I do know that there are laborers in the film industry, also in the photography industry as well, who are literally paid to hold light stands and help set up and pack up. So we wouldn't actually consider them as pro photographers and filmmakers, but maybe just pro laborers for film industry, etc. From around 2010 to 2012, I had been using DSLR cameras that my pro friends brought to small events. I love the quality on them, so I really wanted one of those cameras. Meanwhile, Instagram was coming up big, and me being in mid-teens in high school, I really wanted to impress people on my Instagram. And mind you, the quality on my phone at that time being, I think it was an iPhone 4, the quality on the photos was not that great. But so 2012 comes along and I buy my first DSLR. It was a Canon Rebel T3. Soon I ended up buying the Nifty 50, the 50mm 1.8, and a year later on, I also bought the 24mm 2.8. So all my photos were actually still pretty basic. I never actually edited any of my photos. They would go from my camera to the internet. And yes, I was still shooting in JPEG. In about 2014, I started watching a lot of Casey Neistat, and he just inspired me to get into filmmaking. I was introduced to making small films, so I made a couple clips and videos of me riding a bicycle to school, like the typical Casey Neistat style. So that got me into filmmaking and loving the process that I had to buy that Canon 70D. So I picked up my slack, worked as a janitor in a gym. Not many people actually know about this, but yeah. So I raised enough money for a 70D and basically quit that job. Now that I have my semi-pro level camera and I basically posted that everywhere, look, I have this camera. However, I did have some bits of pro level photography and filmmaking. I was still a very beginner into all of this. I took photos of my friend Jaskirat and his girlfriend in 2016 and made enough money to buy the first GoPro. I believe it was around $100, but that's all I got. And this was my first paid gig, but still not at all professional because I basically didn't even edit anything. But I loved the process, and buying tech was always my passion. So in around 2016, I ended up buying the DJI Phantom 3 Standard. This was my first drone, and I started making a lot of, and I say a lot in like a big fashion, where I did shoot a lot of clips on Final Cut Pro. Until one day I was talking to a friend at school who was a pro photographer, and I mentioned that I had a drone. So we started talking about the projects we could do and fun videos together. So in 2017 January, I did my first actual filmmaking assignment. It was a kid's birthday party and I got paid $150 for shooting and editing the whole thing. I basically made a minute-long video. It took me about 2 months to perfect that, and I learned a lot about filmmaking and editing. In March 2017, I shot my first pre-wedding video, and that was just the beginning. By July 2017, I had purchased my first full-frame camera, the Sony a7R II with a 24-70 f4 lens. This camera was half paid by my friend, so he was allowed to borrow it whenever he wanted to. The point for this was for him to get me gigs, and with the money he would have to pay me, he would just keep it for the camera, and slowly I would just pay off the camera. See what I did there though? Like, you know, not only I was having a full frame $3,000 camera, but I was also getting gigs. experience and learning so much on the way. So from there on, it all began. Gear started coming in, a lot of projects came, shit tons of different weddings, and yes, I did mess up so many times and learned not to make those particular mistakes for the future. And so 3 years later, I'm shooting videos that get me paid enough to buy almost anything that I desire and fulfill my needs. And if there is anything I want to get in the filmmaking industry, like my recent lenses and everything, I can literally go out and literally buy anything that I want at the moment. Now, this is in no shape or form me boasting about how rich I've got or how much money I make. Trust me, I am not rich and I don't make that much money, but I just want to explain how clicking in with the right people and embracing the process rather than just jumping steps, it really does take you far if you follow the process. For me, my friends, YouTubers, and some other people have really just been awesome, and if it wasn't for them, I would still be an amateur photographer and a filmmaker, because once you become a pro at something, you never downgrade, you always upgrade. This is it for today's video. I hope you guys liked this video, and if you did, please make sure to give it a like and share and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video.